Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today on this video, we're going to be talking about the perfect spinning rod for bass fishing. Okay, so if you're new to the sport, maybe buying a rod for an angler who's new to the sport, or you just don't know what rod to buy, this is going to be a pretty helpful video, hopefully. But before we get started, this is not going to be just a sponsored video where I say this is the best rod of all time, that this is the only rod you should buy. I'm going to give you a suggestion by the end of this video, what rod I would suggest within the company that I work with, Fitzgerald Fishing, what rod I really like to use for general bass fishing. But this video is more so about the qualities of a rod that you want to look for. So every single brand out there that makes a bass fishing rod will make a rod that falls within this category, and I feel like I feel pretty confident that I could say pretty much every brand will make a rod that'll serve you well for general bass fishing. We're looking for a rod that isn't real specific to technique. We're looking for a rod that you can use in a wide variety of different situations, cover types, different size lines, pound test lines, and things like that, and will serve you well across the board. And spinning tackle is actually one of the most popular for bass fishing, for beginners especially, but even professionals. Once you get up to the top level, a spinning rod, especially nowadays, has really made a resurgence with some of the sonar technology and the techniques that are doing real well with that. But spinning tackle is definitely like one of those stepping stones into, and usually like bait casting gear is like the last stepping stone there. It's the last place that the anglers get to. But spinning tackle, very simple. It's something that you can fish fresh, saltwater, small game fish, large game fish, everything in between. The only thing that you can't do with spinning gear very well is fish very, very heavy cover. Okay, but anyways, we can get into the weeds talking about spinning gear versus bait casting gear. But let's go ahead and get into this topic. Again, we're not going to just talk about one specific rod that I can give you a link to. I'm going to tell you what rod I like to use. But let's talk about like the qualities that you want to look for in a rod, and the terms that you're going to hear when you're shopping for a fishing rod. So the first two terms that you're going to hear talked about a lot, okay, and a lot of times it's misunderstood. Both of these are misunderstood, they're misused, or they're interchanged. And those two terms are power and action. This is across the board for pretty much all fishing rods. You're going to see companies talk about power and action. That's how they're going to classify each individual rod. Okay, so power, and I'm going to try to just kind of reduce this down into, the most digestible form of what these terms mean. Power is how much force, essentially, it takes to bend a rod. Okay, so power generally associates with the size of fish that you're fishing for, and usually manufacturers start with ultralight, light, medium light, medium heavy, heavy, and then ultra heavy, or something around there. So that's kind of what the terms you're going to see, and that associates with the power of a rod. So an ultralight rod is not going to take a lot of force to bend that, and those are more suited for small panfish and small trout and that sort of thing. But as you get up to like the heavy power, those are for big game fish. They have, they are very well suited for bigger tackle, that sort of thing. So that's what power kind of covers. The action of a rod isn't how much force it takes to bend that rod, it's where the bend is happening on a rod. And usually the terms that you're going to see in association with action are like fast, moderate fast, slow action, things like that. For bass fishing purposes, usually you're sticking with fast action. And what fast action means is it generally will flex the top third of the rod or something around there, okay? So like a slow action rod will bend all the way down the blank. The blank is the actual rod itself. That's as what it starts out as before they, you know, put the guides and stuff on there. And so the slower the action, the more it's going to bend towards the handle. Okay, and slower actions are actually, they can be good. Usually in bass fishing, the slowest you go is like moderate fast. So you're still kind of in that fast category. We generally don't use slow action rods in bass fishing just because it's you don't get as much sensitivity at all, and oftentimes it doesn't have hardly any accuracy at all, you know, depending on the angler and how proficient you are. But anyways, I could go on and on about action, but in general, you want a fast action. You might go to a moderate fast action. If you can't find the rod that you like with all the other qualities that we're talking about, go to a moderate fast action, you'll be just fine. But generally speaking, I like a fast action rod. And the reason for that is that a faster action rod gives you more sensitivity and more control over the accuracy of your presentation. You know, if you have a slower rod, slower rods are really good at loading up on like an overhead cast and making longer casts. You know, if you're less proficient with a fast action, but they're not very accurate. They bend too much, and like doing a roll cast or some type of accurate cast, it just doesn't have that accuracy that you want. And also a fast action is going to give you a better hook set. A lot of times in bass fishing, we're using rigging techniques like Texas rigs and things like that that require you to get that hook point through soft plastic and into the fish's mouth. So fast action is where it's at. I'll just stop it there. So I'm not sure if I mentioned it. As far as power goes, medium heavy power is where you want to stay for the best spinning rod. You might go down to a medium, but I'm a really big proponent of a medium heavy power rod because it helps you fish heavier cover, and again, it still helps you, get those good solid hook sets when using, weedless techniques and things like that. I really think that the perfect bass fishing all around spinning rod is a medium heavy. Same with bait casting gear, by the way. But so anyways, we've gone over power and action. Power, medium heavy. Action, either moderate fast or fast. I would prefer fast. And then let's talk about the length of the rod. Okay, the length of the rod that you really want to focus on, I think, is going to be something close to or at 7 foot. It could be 7.2, it could be 6.10. Okay, the rod that I actually like is this one right here. This is a Fitzgerald. I told you I'd tell you what I suggest. This is the 610 medium heavy Versus Series spinning rod. Good, low price relative to the product line with Fitzgerald. A rod that is very well suited for a lot of different situations. They also make 7.2 that's really good. If you're a little bit taller, you like a longer rod, that's also a really good all-around rod. And I'll put a link in the description below for these if you want. But that 7 foot range is perfect. The reason why I like 7 foot or something around there is the shorter the rod, the more accurate you're gonna be. But if you get too short, you're gonna reduce your casting distance. You're just not gonna be able to get a good long cast. And so 7 foot seems to be like the perfect range. 6'10" to 7'2", right anywhere in that range, you're gonna be looking pretty good. Outside of that, I mean, really it comes down to, just your preferences and the guide system on these rods, and also the type of material that the rod is made out of. I pretty much always suggest people buy graphite rods. And usually if you have a fast action rod, it's going to be a graphite rod. It's just, graphite is more sensitive. It generally promotes a faster action. And yeah, I think graphite is the only way to go for spinning rods in particular for bass fishing. But And most rod manufacturers are using graphite. Even for like the ultralight rods out there, they're still using, you know, graphite or some kind of composite or something like that. Fiberglass is, for the most part, kind of out in rod making nowadays. But anyways, guys, those are my suggestions. Hopefully kind of explaining it and breaking down the different terminology kind of help you with your decision making. Yeah, it's if you find a good rod like the 610 Versa, you know, the 610 medium heavy fast action Versa spinning rod, you're going to be able to handle a lot of different situations until you start fishing really super heavy cover. That's when you want to start focusing on bait casting gear, heavy line like braided line and things like that. You know, that's kind of the next progression in the sport of bass fishing. So, but for now, the perfect spinning rod is exactly as I described. Go out there to any tackle shop. I'm sure that they've got a really good one on the shelves. Check out the Versa series in the link below. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. I'm going to see you out on the water. Trust the process.